The playoffs have begun. How exciting. As a Colts fan, they're not there this year. I've been contemplating this last week. What if? What if they had made it? Should I just boycott the postseason? Let's look back at the 2021 season, shall we? Think about the 9-8 Colts, how they struggled out the gates and struggled closing it out. But wow, how was that season in between? It was amazing. So let's take a review. The season started with trading off our first round pick for 2022 to get Carson Wentz, who had a great run in 2017 before he got injured, and they won the Super Bowl without him with Nick Foles. That was his claim to fame, because he knows Frank Reich. So we'll see how that goes. The backup quarterback would be Jacob Eason. Running back is a good spot with Taylor coming off a great rookie season. You have Nyheim Hines on third down, and Marlon Mack is still around if you need him. And so let's take a look at how season went. Week 1, they got pounded by Seattle. That was a dumpster fire. TJ Lockett ran all over that secondary, and it looked like this was not going to be a good year. I had visions of 2017, and for people who've been around a while, 2011. So I said, okay, let's see how week 2 and week 3 goes. 0-3. Boy, that first round pick is suddenly not a good trade when you're looking at 0-3. But then they've won a game, 1-3. They lose the next one in excruciating fashion, but okay. And then they get going. They win, and they win, and they win. Not just against Houston. They beat the Cardinals. They beat the Patriots. They beat Buffalo, and they beat San Francisco. 9-6 after a 0-3 start. This team is Super Bowl ready. But the season wasn't quite what you thought it would be. Because the same team that won 9 of their last 12, those 3 games they lost were excruciating. They would lose leads of 10 points, 14 points, even more. Every time they would get up big, and if the quarterback was even decent, they'd find a way to lose the game. That Monday night in Baltimore, Lamar Jackson had the best game of his career. Then Las Vegas comes to town. And Las Vegas is playing well. They're coming in. They need a playoff spot. It's grouped up with about 13 teams for 7 spots. And it goes down to the last 2 minutes, 20-20. Raiders have the ball. And you just had the feeling the Colts weren't going to stop them. And then when they score that touchdown at the end, okay, the Colts get another chance with the ball back. But no, he was grazed by a fingertip. So the Raiders just run out the clock, kick the field goal, win 23-20. So suddenly that 98% chance of being in the playoffs has dropped a little bit. They're 9-7. They're sitting in the 7th seed. And you know what? If this season was like any other season of your lifetime, they're in the playoffs. 16 games. Not this year. This year is the year that the NFL said 17 games. We need to make 17 games, an odd amount of games, for no other reason than we have to make more money. We need more money. That's why we have these night playoff games. That's why we have 17 games, because they need more money. And so, who do the Colts play that final game of the season? Our old friends, the Jacksonville Jaguars. The team that went 1-15 last year. Their only win was against the Colts. The Jaguars should be kicked out of the NFL. They only exist to torment us. That's it. They're like Mr. Missile Flick of the fifth dimension. They have no bearing on anything in the NFL except to torment the Colts. And what do you know? The fans are disgusted with the Jaguars. They showed up as clowns. And I thought about that before the game, and I'm thinking, I hope they don't win this game, because they're going to dress up as clowns forever. And you could tell in the first quarter that this was not the same Trevor Lawrence. This was not the Trevor Lawrence who was ranked 37th in the league for quarterbacks. This was the Clemson Trevor Lawrence, who felt like he could move at will because he's playing Wake Forest. And the Colts got behind, and they couldn't do a thing. I've seen this before, but not with the stakes are so high. All you have to do is beat the worst team in the league, and you're in the playoffs. And if you win, you might move up a notch, because the Raiders and Patriots could both lose today. You might get up to number 5 and play Cincinnati, because you don't want to play Kansas City. And nothing went right in that game. The defense, the secondary, the pass rush, the running game. They couldn't run the ball. And Carson Wentz fumbled when you didn't need him to fumble. The receivers couldn't get separation until Michael Pittman late in the game. So where does the future lie for the Colts? What do they do? 9-8. You're above. It's better than 8-8. But it hurts. It doesn't feel good. If you were Miami and start out 1-7 and you finish 9-8, that feels good. They fired their coach. So 9-8, where do you go? You keep Reich and Ballard because of the great job they've done, I guess. Do you keep Carson Wentz? Do you trade a first-round pick for 2023 to get another quarterback, a reclaim project? I don't know what they do. What if Jonathan Taylor gets injured next year? They're not going to have Marlon Mack probably sitting there waiting to be activated. They need to upgrade the wide receiver position. Campbell can't stay healthy. Hilton's toward the end. You need someone else besides Michael Pittman making key catches. They've got some issues, and they don't have all the draft picks to improve. And they're not a team that goes out and gets free agents. So I have several months to think about what the future holds. I'm not paid by the Colts to make any decisions. That's a good thing. But it's going to be a long season. Yeah, you heard me. I'm not talking about the offseason. I'm going to talk about the next season. It's going to be a long season because every single week you're going to be thinking about, okay, what about toward the end of the season? Because you're not going to enjoy the wins as much next year. You're not going to sit there and say, hey, we're 9-6. we're going to the playoff. No, it's going to be in the back of your mind the whole season of 2022. Who do we play? I hope it's not Jacksonville. That's what's going to be the mindset. So the playoffs go on. I really don't have that much of a rooting interest, but at least Pittsburgh's out because that's who got in instead of the Colts. And, they didn't really deserve it. They got in by a field goal in the last few minutes of overtime against a depleted Baltimore team that hadn't won in 6 weeks. The only team that crashed harder than the Colts were the Ravens. So Pittsburgh is out good. But outside of that, it's the end of the season, and I don't feel fine, but it's over. Wait till next year.